The Israeli Prime Minister's speech in Congress yesterday, a speech that a number of my Democrat colleagues and Vice President Harris chose to boycott, was a timely reminder of the dangerous world we face. Iran-backed terrorist organizations like Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis fomenting terror and instability in the Middle East. An emboldened Russia engaged in a ground war against Ukraine on the doorstep of our NATO allies. An increasingly aggressive China and an increasingly endangered Taiwan. And the unfortunate truth, Mr. President, is that we are not as prepared as we should be to confront these threats. We have service branches struggling with recruitment. We have ships that can't sail and planes that can't fly because of maintenance issues. We have shortages of munitions. Our colleague, Senator Wicker, the ranking member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, recently put forward a blueprint for rebuilding our military. He points out that our defense budget as a share of the economy has fallen to near historic lows, hardly in line with the threats that we face today. And he proposes increasing the defense budget over the next few years alongside important reforms to put our military in a position of strength, not just now, but well into the future. It's a call that we need to heed. Last fall, the Strategic Posture Commission offered a disturbing assessment, and I quote, "Today the United States is on the cusp of having not one, but two nuclear peer adversaries, each with ambitions to change the international status quo by force if necessary, a situation which the United States did not anticipate and for which it is not prepared." End quote. A situation which the United States did not anticipate and for which it is not prepared. That is a pretty disturbing analysis, Mr. President, and it underlines the absolute imperative of addressing our military readiness today. Which brings me to this year's National Defense Authorization Act. I'm grateful that our colleagues on the Armed Services Committee have put forward a bill that, while it does not authorize all the investment our military needs, does take steps to address the challenges that we're facing. This year's NDAA authorizes full funding for the European and Pacific deterrence initiatives and takes steps to strengthen our partnerships to counter Russia and China. It takes important steps to modernize our military and authorize financing for the technologies and weapons of tomorrow. And it authorizes the purchase of new ships, combat vehicles, and aircraft to update our aging fleets. I'm particularly pleased to report that this bill includes full funding for the next steps of the B-21 mission, including necessary support facilities. The Air Force calls the B-21 Raider, its new long-term strategic bomber, the future backbone of the bomber force. And I'm incredibly proud that this mission will be hosted at South Dakota's own Ellsworth Air Force Base. And one of my top priorities here in Congress is ensuring that the Air Force, and Ellsworth in particular, has everything it needs for this critical advancement in our nation's readiness. Mr. President, the Senate Armed Services Committee passed this year's National Defense Authorization Act on June 13th. And well over a month later, the Democrat leader still hasn't found time for this critical legislation, nor is there any indication of when he will. It says a lot about Democrats' priorities. But I hope that the Democrat leader will take a moment to consider that while he puts our defense on the back burner, our enemies are not delaying their ambitions or their aggressive activities. And I hope he will bring this important and consequential legislation to the floor in the very near future.